refresh stream. I will be right back. I have to step away for a few minutes, but make sure everybody got transferred over. Joanne Hendricks, thank you for the 1 month. I'm not drinking the conspiracy Kool-Aid. Let's not forget that in this circus, an honorable man, young family, was killed. Thank you, Joanne. Joanne says she's not buying into the conspiracy. Michelle, thank you for the 8 months. Thank you so much. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta go drop something off. I'll be right back. It's unmuted too. Whenever they start, we'll hear it, okay? Oh. It's over? Wait. It's over? It's over, y'all? Oh, okay. I think it's over. I'm gonna see you guys on the main page. All right, love you. All right, let me go. I gotta go.
All right, so we have to do a better job of streamlining all of these exhibits. What I'd like you to do is every day, no later than 8 o'clock in the morning, let Madam Court Reporter know how many exhibits you think there are going to be for the day, because you may or may not know, but each sticker, Madam Court Reporter puts the exhibit number, the date, and her initials, and that takes a lot of time. So if we can streamline that, that would be much better. How many more do you expect to have for today?
May we approach just on that?
Okay. We can line them up and bring them in.
Okay.
Some of these are already marked.
You are unmuted.
Way back to session, you may proceed.
All right, could we have the witness, please? All right, Mr. Lally.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hart.
Good afternoon.
So with respect to the photographs that were just marked as exhibits of the orange T-shirt, that was item that was marked as 7-1, is that correct? I'm sorry, 7-17.
Yes, that's correct.
So similar to how you had marked off areas of either damage or red-brown stains, was that similar to what you did with the gray hooded sweatshirt? Is that similar to what you did with the orange T-shirt as well?
Yes, that's correct.
And then there were two other clothing items that you examined, being a pair of jeans and a set of sneakers, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And with reference to the jeans, that was marked as item 7-1, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And with respect to the sneakers, that was marked as item 7-4, is that correct?
Each sneaker had its own item number. One was 7-3 and one was 7-4.
And with respect to the evidence as far as the stickers and sort of the denotations that you had made in regard to either damage or red-brown stains, was that similarly done with respect to each of those remaining clothing items as well?
Yes, that's correct.
You know what I may approach?
Yes.
So Ms. Harden, with respect to the jeans, showing you a series of 8 photographs, do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
Those are photographs that I took of the pair of jeans.
And what's contained in those photographs, a fair and accurate portrayal of your observations of those jeans when you conducted your examination of them at the lab?
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Almost seek to introduce and admit exhibits.
All right, and there's no objection, you said, Mr. Jackson, correct?
Thank you.
It's 240.
Yes, please. Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission, publish some of the photographs in the packet from 232 to 241.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have, excuse me, photograph 9862. Ms. Harden, do you recognize what's up on the screen that's now been marked as Exhibit 231?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's a photograph I took of item 7-17, the orange T-shirt, and it's the exterior front.
And Ms. Gilman, 9863. And again, Ms. Hartnett, if you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 232,
Yes, I do.
what do you recognize that to be?
That's the exterior back of item 7-17.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9867. And Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in on sort of the upper right portion of that where the stickers are. Now, Ms. Hardy, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 233?
Yes, I do.
And again, using the laser pointer, if you could draw the jury's attention to any items that you, or any areas of this shirt that you marked on.
I marked 3 specific red-brown stains using these stickers and letters A, B, and C.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to keep the zoom in, but go to the bottom left of the photograph. And similarly, Ms. Hartnett, within this zoomed-in portion of Exhibit 233, if you using a laser pointer to draw the jury's attention, what, if anything, you noted there?
I noted red-brown stain D, which I marked with the sticker, and D on the bottom right.
Last name is Gilman, if I could have photograph 9873. And Ms. Hartnett, what's up on the screen is now marked as Exhibit 239. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in on the upper left portion of the photograph. And again, Ms. Hartnett, if you could, using the laser pointer, just draw the jury's attention to what, if anything, you noted there.
I noted this specific red-brown stain, and I marked it E.
Okay. And Your Honor, similarly, with the court's permission, if I could publish what's been marked now as Exhibit 242 through 249.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9878. Ms. Hartnett, direct your attention up to the screen with now the mark as Exhibit 242. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's a photograph of the exterior front of the jeans with the belt, item 7-1.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9887. And as you testified before, similarly to the other clothing items that you testified about, did you mark off certain items of interest or areas of interest on this item as well with respect to the jeans?
Yes, I did.
And is that depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9888. And if you could just zoom in, Ms. Gilman. And again, Ms. Hartnett, if you could, using the laser pointer before you, direct the jury's attention to those areas that you noted or that you marked off in respect to this.
I marked off red-brown stains A, B, C, D, and E on the front of those jeans.
Thank you. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Hartnett, showing you another series of flying photographs. You know. recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are photographs of the sneakers, items 7-3 and 7-4.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth seeks to introduce the minutes of the next exhibits.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. All right. Hair and fiber test. Oh, that was earlier. Moving on to O'Keefe's shirt.
Now,
Oh, they showed the belt? They showed the belt? Did they really?
Ms. Hartnett, with reference to the sneakers and sort of the other clothing items that you received, do you recall how or where or when it was that you received each of those respective clothing items? Or how the lab did, you know?
They were received by the lab from the Norfolk detective unit.
And as far as the sneakers being labeled with two different stickers, do you know why that was?
One of the sneakers was recovered from 34 Fairview Road, and one of the sneakers was recovered from the hospital.
Now, with reference to the photographs that I've just placed before you, have you had a chance to look at those?
These ones here?
Yes.
No.
Good.
So the belt conspiracy's out the window? The belt is in the pants loops. Oh, no.
And do you recognize what's...
Oh, EMT cut the clothing?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
Those are the fingernail clippings that were submitted for John O'Keefe
And do you know where they were submitted from?
by the Norfolk County Detective Unit.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll call them up to please introduce the minutes of the next exhibit.
Okay.
Wasn't it like a crate, like a...
Thank you.
And Your Honor, with respect to each of those, I'm not seeking to publish those to the jury at this time. So
Okay.
Court officer.
The lights back on, please.
I didn't see it because I stepped away. They actually
Now,
showed the
Ms.
belt.
Hartnett, with respect to those stains on the
Oh.
gray sweatshirt, the orange T-shirt, and the jeans, what, if any, testing was done? And Ms. Gilman, if you
Oh, real quick. I'll catch you back up, but... Did this show the belt? Oh, hell nah! Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. Sorry, all right. Hell nah! To the nah,
The
nah!
T-shirt and the jeans, I saw visible red-brown stains, which I screened for blood. The majority were also, I also performed a confirmatory test for blood. There was one stain on the orange T-shirt, however, that was too small to perform that confirmatory test. So for that instance, I noted that the stain was quantity limited, and I preserved it after the positive screening test instead of performing a confirmatory test in order to preserve enough material for any DNA analysis. As far as the sneakers, given their dark color, I did not see any visible red-brown stains on the black area of the sneakers, so I used an alternate light source to aid in visualizing any potential blood on those sneakers. With that alternate light source, I tested several stains on the sneakers, one of which screened positive for blood.
Now, with respect to the other clothing items that you were talking about doing the screening test and the confirmatory test for blood, with respect to the gray sweatshirt, the orange T-shirt, and the jeans, what were the results of that screening test and that confirmatory test that you ran with regard to each of those?
The screening test and the confirmatory test were positive.
Now, beyond the stains, did you take any additional samples from those items?
Yes, I did.
And what were those and how was that done?
For each of the items, I picked up any loose trace material, which would be hairs and fibers or apparent hairs and fibers that were adhering to the item. I also did a scraping and swabbing for skin cell collection of the unstained areas, and that involves taking a sterile scalpel and swabbing the areas of the clothing that don't have any visible stains on them, and then taking 2 cotton swabs and swabbing that same area, and then combining those scrapings and swabs for potential DNA analysis. In addition to those, I also took a scraping of each of the materials, and that involves taking the item, using something like a flat metal spatula, and scraping down whatever adhering materials left on the item into a glassine packet.
And as far as those items, once they're collected from the material or from the clothing, what do you do with them from there?
Each of those items is given its own item number. It's a sub-item of the overall larger number used to mark the item, and those are sent to the appropriate units for additional testing.
And as far as preservation is concerned, when it comes to sending something to either the trace unit or the DNA unit, what, if any, steps are taken in regard to preserving those items once they're removed from the clothing and sent off to the other units?
Each of those items would be preserved according to protocol. They're sealed properly, initial and dated with my initials and date. They're entered into our LIMS system, so those sub-items could then be tracked throughout the laboratory, and they're stored in the appropriate storage unit.
Now, at some point, did you also receive items that were labeled as 3-2 and 3-3?
I submitted those when I returned from the original scene.
And what were those, ma'am?
Those were pieces of glass from the bumper and a drinking glass from the crime scene.
Now, did you examine those items?
Yes, I did.
And what, if any, examination did you do, and what is it that you were looking for in your examination?
I did a visual examination, and I took photographs, and then I also took a collection from each of the items.
And did you do any testing on those items?
No, I did not.
And what kind of samples did you collect from those items?
I took potential skin cell collection using a swab moistened with sterile water.
And as far as the samples that you took from, as well as the items themselves, what, if anything, did you do with reference to those once you were done with your examination?
The swabs were preserved for testing in the DNA unit, and the original items, the apparent pieces of glass and the drinking glass, were preserved for the trace unit.
As far as those preservations were concerned, is that similar to the preservation process you were describing earlier with regard to the clothing items?
Yes, that's correct.
So both Ms. Lally and Ms. Harnett, you have to keep your voices up, or we have to turn the air conditioning on.
No. She will cut it, dude. She's done it before. Cut off the AC and everything.
I may have one moment, Charlie.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
Okay,
Thank you, Your Honor.
shine time. Let's go.
Ms. Harnett, you responded to Canton Police Department. A lot of your testimony was about what happened in the sallyport, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You were asked if you responded to the Canton Police Department on February 2nd, and most of your testimony was predicated on that date, you going over there and doing some visual observations, as well as some removal of items and some other testing, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Was it February 2nd or was it February 1st?
May I check my notes?
I'd appreciate it if you did, yes.
My apologies, that was my error. It was February 1st.
Okay. So everything that you testified to, you only went once.
Yes, that's correct.
So everything that you testified to having taken place on February 1st, we should assume it was actually on February 2nd, we should assume it was actually February 1st, the one time you were there.
Yes, I was there one time.
Okay. Were you dispatched to the sallyport? And I apologize, I'm not yelling at you. I'm trying to keep my voice elevated, so just so you know.
Understood.
It's not my normal speaking voice. You were dispatched at the behest of one of the Massachusetts state troopers, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The Detective Bureau specifically, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Trooper Proctor more specifically, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And Trooper Proctor, you knew at that time to be the lead detective, the person that was in control of the investigation.
May I check my notes who I wrote down as the lead investigator at that
If it
time?
would refresh your recollection, sure. With the court's permission.
Yes.
Yes, I was told on scene that Trooper Proctor was in charge of the investigation.
All right. Now, while you were there, one of the things that you did initially was to just do an overview of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Obviously, that was important given the limited information that you had at that time about a potential motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
Correct.
So you were looking for anything that would rise to a level of investigative concern regarding that vehicle, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Hence your review and notation of certain scratches on the vehicle. Is that right?
Yes.
Which may or may not have anything to do with the incident, but you noted it anyway, correct?
I did not draw any conclusions as to where those scratches came from.
Okay, you just took the words right out of my mouth. My next question, the dent that you noted and photographed, you made no conclusion that that occurred as a result of a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
The scratches, and I'm just going to go through a couple of them, the scratches that you denoted and had photographed, you made no conclusions about that having anything to do with a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
Even the broken taillight, at that point, you made no conclusions or drew no scientific conclusions about that having anything at all to do with a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
You did, however, look for tissue, human tissue, blood, biological material, and things of that nature on the car itself. Did you not?
Yes, I did.
In that review, I think you testified that you saw nothing that suggested the transfer of human tissue to the vehicle, correct?
I did not see any visible stains or tissue on the vehicle.
You were told, Ms. Hartnett, that there were scratches on one of the extremities of John O'Keefe, correct?
That's correct.
Were you shown a photograph of those scratches to assist you in your visual review or examination of that vehicle?
Not at that time, no.
To this date, have you seen a photograph of his arm and the injuries to his arm?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, if I may, if we have it, could I display for the jurors and for Ms. Hartnett Exhibit 19?
Is this the one that's
The arm
covered a bit?
has been
Okay.
propped.
Yes.
Your Honor. Ms. Hartnett, do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 19?
Yes, I do.
And you've seen that pattern of scratches previously, correct?
Yes, I've seen a photo containing
Okay, and
something
that's
similar.
consistent with the photo that you've seen since your visit to the sallyport on February 1st, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Was there anything in your, by the way, did you look at all around the vehicle 360 degrees?
Yes, I did.
Did you look toward the top of the vehicle as well as toward the bottom of the vehicle?
I did not examine the roof of the vehicle. I did not examine the roof of the vehicle.
Understood. Did you examine the undercarriage of the vehicle?
I did look at the undercarriage of the vehicle.
And you know what I mean when I say undercarriage.
Yes.
Could you explain for the jurors what you mean when you use the word undercarriage?
The parts that normally you would have to see by, bending over or laying underneath the car to view what's underneath the vehicle.
That would include the frame and the axle and the drive shaft, transmission, things of that nature.
Yes, I'm not confident in all the terminology of the undercarriage, but yes.
Did you see anything that was suggestive of or consistent with the pattern of injury that you see to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm?
I wouldn't say I'm qualified to make any kind of pattern determination and what would match the injuries on his arm.
So the answer to my question is, as you sit here, you made no observation of anything on the SUV that matched these injuries, correct?
I wouldn't be. Sorry.
Go ahead and answer that.
I wouldn't be able to testify from memory. I don't have a photograph of the undercarriage, nor did I make any kind of conclusions about that at the time.
Okay, understood. And you didn't take any, I'm sorry, the swabs and samples that you did take variously on the car all came back negative for human tissue, et cetera.
The testing that I did on scene from the various areas of the undercarriage, which I had mentioned before, the tire flaps, the edge of the bumper, and the exhaust pipe screened negative for blood.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, can we take this down?
I'm just going to suggest that. Thank you, Your Honor. On February 1st, 2002, in addition to taking some swabs from the vehicle itself, you also mentioned that you took swabs of what you believe to be blood evidence contained in 6 solo cups, correct?
Yes, I noted those as frozen red-brown stains in red cups.
Were those solo cups in any way labeled among themselves? In other words, solo cup 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't believe they were, but I don't have a photograph of that, so I'm not 100% sure.
You did not thereafter label those solo cups. If they hadn't been done beforehand, you did not undertake that to label those solo cups, correct?
No, I did not label them.
Did you, how did you take those swabs? Was the swab done in one solo cup, or did you take a swab from all 6, or how did you take those swabs that you ultimately did take?
I took those swabs from one solo cup.
How did you choose which of the 6 solo cups you were going to take a swab from?
I don't recall exactly how I chose which cup. It was reported to me that those cups came from the same area of red-brown staining, so you make an assumption that they're all related. It came from what I was told, it came from one area of red-brown stain at the scene.
And you, of course, know as a forensic criminalist that blood stains can contain multiple contributors, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You don't know as you sit here which blood stain found at the scene related to which solo cup in the bag, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, it was my understanding they were all taken from the same stain, but I was not there.
From the same scene or?
Stain, excuse me. It was my understanding they were all taken from the same stain.
Okay. If they, in fact, were taken from multiple stains, you would have no way of knowing that as you sit here.
That's correct.
And ultimately, once you did take that swab from that single solo cup, what did you do with the rest of that blood evidence?
I left that with the Canton Police Department.
Go to what?
Was there any of the swab? By the way, I should ask this. I've been saying swabs. Was there one swab taken of that one solo from that one solo cup, or were there multiple swabs taken?
There were 2 swabs taken.
Of those 2 swabs, did you seek to do DNA testing, or was DNA testing done on either one of those or both of them?
DNA testing was not done on those swabs.
So as we sit here now, there's been no DNA confirmation of what who that blood relates to, I should say.
There was no testing done on it at all.
And so therefore, we would not know if there were multiple contributors to those stains or that swab that you took from that single solo cup.
That's correct.
Okay. And again, the remainder of all of that solo cup, as well as all the other 5 solo cups, was retained by Canton Police at the Canton Police Department in the control of the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, correct?
I don't know who was in control of it once I returned it to the Canton Police Department.
Who did you return it to at the Canton Police Department? Whom, I should say.
I believe I gave it to a Canton police officer. I don't know which officer that was.
Michael Proctor was at the sallyport at the time that you were doing your examination, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he not take control of it himself?
Not that I saw. I don't know who took control of them once I was done with my collection.
They have, you just don't know.
Correct.
Okay. Going back to some of the damage that you did note on the vehicle, that vehicle looked like it had been driven to a certain degree, right?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I'm not. If you could clarify the question, I'm not sure what you're asking.
Terrible question. Let me try it again. That vehicle was not a vehicle that had clearly just come off the showroom floor and had not been in use, based on your examination.
I don't think I am qualified to make that kind of decision.
It looked like there was some normal wear and tear on the car.
Other than the specific items that I pointed out earlier, the dent and the scratches, the exterior was in overall good condition. So I can't say specifically if it was driven I don't think I can make that conclusion unless you want to rephrase the question.
You didn't have any reason to believe that car was in any other condition than it had been owned and driven by somebody, right? Or could you make that conclusion?
I don't think I can make that conclusion.
So it could have been an absolutely brand new, right off the showroom floor car?
I guess I don't have any understanding of what could have happened to it in the showroom. I'm not sure I understand the line of questioning.
Why don't we move along?
Fair enough.
Oh, shit. Oh. Let's go.
I guess what I'm asking is,
What you asking?
you've done some damage analysis in the past, obviously. This was not your first rodeo, right?
I don't do damage analysis of some vehicles.
Okay. Did this car look like it had reasonably normal wear and tear on it? That's my question.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Okay. Ultimately, the right rear taillight housing was removed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Were you the person, Ms. Hartnett, who actually used the tools to remove that taillight, be it screwdrivers, wrenches, anything else?
No.
Who was that actually did that work?
It was a Canton police officer that had entered the garage, and as I was removing it, he offered to help. He said he knew how to basically take it out of the housing, which at that point, I was not sure how I would do that.
Okay. I'd like to show you an exhibit that you'd been shown just a few minutes ago before the lunch break, 187, with the court's permission.
Okay.
Does that look like the same housing that you removed from the SUV, or you saw being removed from the SUV?
Yes, that is the taillight housing that I submitted to the lab from the garage.
Ultimately, there was a swab taken, you mentioned on direct examination, of that taillight somewhere on the house, correct?
Yes, I took a swab from that taillight.
Where exactly
Where
did you
did you
take
take a
that
swab?
swab from?
I took it from the outer exposed areas, which would have been on the outer side of the vehicle. So I did not take it from the internal, what would have been the internal portion of the taillight when it was intact.
Can you point with a laser pointer exactly where you swabbed that taillight housing?
Sure. Is there a way that, can it get zoomed in just a little bit so I can differentiate the silver in the front? I'm having a little trouble.
Is that zoomed in enough, or do you need more?
I believe so. I can start. So I took it from the red area here that would have been exposed. And then if we could zoom in a little bit more just on this front area so I can differentiate between the internal structures and the external.
Was it one swab?
Yes, that's correct.
So you swabbed multiple areas with one swab and then submitted that.
Yes.
So you don't know, as you sit here, where, if any DNA was detected, where that DNA may have come from,
No, that's correct.
other than the general housing altogether.
Yes. So then just to finish your previous question, I did.
Sorry, I didn't mean to-
That's okay. It's just I couldn't see it. So this area here, which would have been the external portion of the taillight. So the areas I did not swab were any areas that would have, when the taillight was intact, been protected by the outer plastic housing of the taillight.
Is your testimony, Ms. Hartnett, that what you just pointed to was the exterior portion of the taillight, bottom left?
No, just this piece of plastic here is the exterior, the exterior piece of plastic.
And you swabbed that area as well as other areas on the exterior, like the red upper right.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. as you swab that, the DNA test does not differentiate where you swab, just that you swab, correct?
Yes, that's correct. That was all one swab, one collection.
Got it. So we can't define whether the DNA was to the upper right, on the outside of the lens, or some other place that you pointed to.
That's correct.
And of course, you're familiar with touch DNA, et cetera, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Touch an item, walk away, sweaty palms. Good likelihood I just left some DNA on this podium, correct?
Yes, you can transfer skin cells by touching an item.
Thank you. We can take that down with the court's permission. Sure. You also indicated that you collected glass from the rear bumper of Miss Reed's Lexus, correct?
Yes, I have it as a parent glass, but yes.
As a parent glass, fair enough.
We're back.
You labeled that as item 3-3, and it was 5 pieces of glass labeled A through E, right? A, B, C, D, E. Is that
May I refer to my notes?
with the court's permission?
Yes.
I'm just unfamiliar with the lettering A through E. I don't believe I have that in my notes. If you could refer to the document that you have.
Is it possible that, and this is just ignorance on my part, is it possible that once you submitted that for further testing, somebody else may have labeled those individual pieces A through E? You did not?
That's possible. I did not label them A through E.
Okay, got it. Understood. Thank you for that clarification. As a matter of fact, you labeled it as quantity 1, correct? On an evidence submission form?
In the LIMS system, that's correct. Each item is, that quantity value is only used for specific things. So when I submit something as one item, it doesn't matter how many pieces it actually is. It's just, I'm submitting it as one item.
So in other words, one group.
That's correct.
But it's so we're clear, and I want to make sure that these numbers are crystal clear. In that group, under 3-3, there were 5 pieces of apparent glass that you recovered, correct?
I don't have the exact number in my notes, and honestly, it's difficult to tell from my picture, so I don't want to say that I saw 5 pieces of glass.
Did you not annotate that somewhere, that you recovered 5 pieces?
Again, I have a photograph of it, but it's difficult to see on this printed page, so I didn't specifically write 5 pieces anywhere.
Okay. Well, okay, then let me see if I can do it this way. Instead of pitching, let's catch. The person that you submitted it to would have annotated exactly what the grouping was that you submitted to try to be accurate.
I'm the one that initially, after the item was sent to fingerprinting, then I examined the item, but I didn't write down exactly how many pieces of glass were present. I just took a photo.
And as you sit here, you don't recall necessarily how many pieces you took off that bumper.
Correct. And the quality of the photo does not allow me to see that at this point.
Okay, let's take a look at that photo. With the court's permission, this is exhibit
Let's zoom in. Let's take a closer look.
Can we show that, display that? And if we could, Mr. Bates, with the court's permission, can we zoom in on the area, and those are bigger than that, capture all of the placards there. Zooming in at this point, and I would ask you, Ms. Hartnett, do you recognize this photo? It's zoomed a little bit. Do you still recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Is that a photograph that you caused to be taken at the Sallyport on February 1st, 2022?
I believe it was February 2nd, right? Did we, or it's February 1st now? We agreed it's February 1st. My apologies. Yes, on February 1st, I did request that photo be taken of the apparent pieces of glass.
Okay. And can you, I know you can't see necessarily every piece. Can you use your laser pointer and point to a piece?
Sure.
Okay. Got it. So that's the largest of the pieces, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
correct that none of these pieces of apparent glass were embedded in the bumper. They weren't dug in, stuck into that hard plastic, correct?
No, I do not have that. I do not have that notation that they were embedded, just they were on the bumper.
As a matter of fact, they were physically perched on top of that hard
Oh,
plastic
shit. Splendid.
horizontal bumper, correct?
Splendid.
To my recollection, they were just sitting on the bumper, yes.
Okay. And do you know, just in your experience, and if we could leave this up for just a moment while I ask the next couple of questions, Your Honor.
Okay?
Do you know where Dighton, Massachusetts is?
I know the general area.
How far would you say that is from Canton?
I don't know, maybe a half an hour. I'm not exactly sure.
Do your notes indicate that the vehicle was recovered from Dighton and towed back to Canton and placed in the sallyport before you started your examination?
Yes,
So and you also had been apprised before you began your examination that the incident in question took place in Canton, correct?
yes, that's correct.
So you knew as you were looking at this vehicle and doing your examination, the vehicle had to have been driven by definition from Canton to Dighton and then towed back from Dighton back to Canton, correct?
I was informed that the car was recovered in Dighton.
And ultimately either driven back or towed back. One of the ways, some way it ended up back in Canton, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so if Dighton is, how far would you say Dighton is from Canton?
again, I'm really guessing. I would say maybe a half an hour.
30 miles?
Potentially, I don't know exactly. I was never in Dighton.
Okay, so according to your notes, the glass pieces that we're looking at on the back of this bumper would have traveled, let's call it for round figures, about 60 miles in a blizzard before you saw it.
I don't know when the glass pieces were ended up on the bumper, so I couldn't say.
And of course, you knew that on February 1st, you knew a few days earlier, on the 29th, there had been a pretty significant snowstorm here in Massachusetts, correct?
Yes, I did have that information.
And that blizzard included high winds, freezing rain, snow, all the good stuff with a blizzard, correct?
I don't recall the exact weather conditions of the blizzard.
But irrespective, after all of that, whatever that was, you saw these 5 pieces just sitting perched on the top of the bumper, not embedded in any way, correct?
That's correct.
And you recovered those with little bitty tweezers, correct?
Yes.
We can take this down with the court's permission. You testified on direct examination that you also found a hair on that rear panel, the quarter panel of the car, correct?
Yes, at the time of the scene, I noted it was an apparent hair, correct?
And the apparent hair, and I'll try to use that same word, I keep forgetting, you'll correct me.
You said at the scene?
That apparent hair was not sitting on the horizontal bumper, but on a vertical portion of the quarter panel, correct?
That's correct.
Did you find the hair, or was that hair pointed out to you by somebody else?
I believe I located the hair.
How exactly was that hair secured to that vertical panel, if you can explain that?
It didn't appear to be secured in any way. It was just on that quarter panel.
Okay, so it wasn't taped,
was detected at your front door.
No,
it wasn't glued,
no,
wasn't stapled.
no.
It was not affixed in any way whatsoever. It was just perched on that vertical panel of the SUV, correct?
That's correct.
And for you to remove it, and by the way, you found this at the same time that you found the general time, that you found the glass pieces as well.
That's correct.
So that hair potentially would have had to make that same 60-mile round trip in the same blizzard.
At the time, I don't know when that hair was deposited on the vehicle.
Right. And it didn't take you much to remove that hair, correct?
I picked it up with a pair of tweezers.
Didn't give you any resistance?
Not that I recall.
Okay. I'd like to take a look at that hair if we can. I know you've seen it just a few minutes ago. I want to look at it one more time. With the court's permission, these are exhibits 165 and 173. If we could start with 165 and publish those.
Okay?
Does that look like a close-up view of, actually, is that zoom? Yeah.
There's the hair follicle.
Pull back out.
What y'all think? The hair was
May I do
planted?
This a different way.
Who planted the hair? Who's that? They took John's hair and planted
With
it?
the court's permission.
So why just plant one single hair? To throw them off?
Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. I want to try to.
Is it beyond a reasonable doubt? What do you guys think? A red solo cup. Forensic
John, may I
evidence.
approach briefly?
Yes.
Thank you. 163, 75. These are zooms that last a month. If I may hand you those very briefly, could you take a look at those 4 photographs and tell me if you recognize the first 2 to be exhibits 165 and 173? They're not marked on there, but what you earlier looked at.
Okay.
Do those appear to be those 2 exhibits that you earlier saw?
Yes, I don't know what numbers they were, but I do remember seeing these photos earlier.
Fair enough. And then the second 2 photos, do those appear to be zoomed photos of the same 2 photographs?
Yes, they do.
With the court's permission, I would ask that the zoomed
Check it
photos
out.
be marked as next in order.
Is there any objections to Lally?
What hat now? What are they talking about a hat now?
May I approach?
Yes.
What about his hat? All aboard. Afternoon caffeine. Got caffeine, get up. Wake up caffeine. I have to go get myself a little pre-workout or something.
Thank you. May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, we're looking at what's previously been marked as 165. Does that appear to be a photo of the hair?
Would it be possible just to zoom in on that,
Absolutely.
the
This is not
sticker?
an eye contact.
Julie!
And just a little bit more. I'm just trying to
20.
read the letter on the white marker.
Hope you're doing okay.
Yes, so that, correct.
So that hair looks, as we're looking at it, you will agree, that hair looks like almost like a backward C, correct? In other words, it looks like it's more vertical than flat in that photograph, correct?
I would agree it looks like a C on the side of the car.
If we could go to exhibit 173. And this is the same hair photographed a second time, correct?
If we could, again, just zoom in on that sticker.
What's it? It's the opposite side now? Oh, it's the opposite side, and now it's on the
Yes,
other
that's
side.
correct.
Ms. Hartnett, does it look to you like between the first and the second photographs, that hair has moved?
Uh-oh!
It's no longer an inverted C, but a C.
Yeah, it's flipped the other way now. Seagate.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I see the 2
No, I
ends,
agree.
which may have been,
Let's take a screenshot.
which may still be making contact with the vehicle. I can't make that determination based on this photo.
Fair enough. So that was sort of my next question. I'll just dovetail it this way. Did it appear to you that the hair, which is curled, was making contact with the vehicle on the top point and the bottom point?
I would say from this
different.
photo, I honestly can't tell if those 2 ends are coming off the vehicle or touching the vehicle. I just can't make that determination.
But you would agree that that hair was somewhat precariously perched on that vertical quarter panel, correct?
Objection.
I want to sustain the objection, ask it differently.
Mr. Bates, we're finished with that. With the court's permission, we can take that down. If you take a look at the zoomed photos that have just been marked as 259 and 260 respectively, can you take a look at those side by side, and when you're finished, I'd like to ask you a question or 2 about those.
Okay.
Does it look from your perspective, seeing those photos side by side, that the hair appears to have gently moved just a little bit between the 2 photos?
I just don't think I can make that determination. They're taken from different angles. I just don't know. I can see.
Oh,
that they have a
what if they
curve, but I
flipped the
don't know which
photograph?
ends
What
are
if they
making
flipped it?
contact or if the ends are coming off the vehicle.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Those look different, though.
Thank you, Mr.
Let me see. It does look like they take the picture from the same side, though. Everything looks the same except the hair looks moved or flipped to the other side.
There's one more exhibit I'd like to take a quick look at and ask you a couple of questions about. With the court's permission, Exhibit 195, which is a shirt.
Okay.
Do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
Yes, I do.
And you saw this just a few minutes ago on direct examination as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You indicated that you took 2 swabs from the, quote, area around damage, numbers 1 through 9 of the gray sweatshirt, end quote, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, can you describe for the jurors how you took those swabs, and were they of all 9 or a select number of the 9? How did you do that?
I moistened 2 cotton swabs with sterile water, and then I took those 2 swabs. May I use the pointer to just show?
Of course.
And I vigorously swabbed around. I don't know if it's working. There we go. This entire area. So every area of damage, I swabbed around all of it using the same 2 swabs. So it was one collection from all those areas.
One collection on swab 1 and one collection on swab 2. You just repeated the process.
No, I took them exactly at the same time. So I held the 2 swabs together.
Oh.
And as I'm swabbing, I'm rotating the swabs to make sure that all the exterior of the swab is coming into contact with that material in order to collect equal samples, or at least attempt to collect equal samples on each swab.
Okay, we can take that. Thank you. And you indicated that this was the first time that you had done swabbing specifically for the purpose of trying to find either canine DNA or animal DNA.
That's correct.
Had you been trained at the time that you took the swabs, had you been trained or received any training or any teaching about the relationship between keratinized tissue and DNA?
No,
Do you know what keratinized tissue is?
no.
Did you photograph exactly where any of those swabs were taken, or just notate it in your notes?
I notated in my notes that overall photo is the photo that I used to describe the sample that I collected.
And I think it probably goes without saying, you didn't videotape your swabbing technique on that shirt either, correct?
That's correct.
You did include a handwritten note on your report that you found, quote, debris from T-shirt 717 and shirt 718, correct?
I performed a debris collection on each of those items. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
That is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Okay, so there was a note in your report that you had recovered some debris or done some debris collection, correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated in your note that the debris was from shirt 717 and shirt 718. Is that right?
May I refer to my notes?
And with the court's permission.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And shirt 717 is which shirt?
The orange t-shirt,
And shirt 718 is which shirt?
the long sleeve gray shirt.
All right. So you took, is the right word scrapings?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You took scrapings from both shirts. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And then combined those together and submitted that as the quote unquote debris that was assigned a new item number 7-18.18, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So as you sit here, you don't know where the debris came from specifically other than the 2 shirts. Could be one, could be the other, could have been a combination of both.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
Did you describe in detail anywhere the actual debris that you found? Little fibers, little hairs, little pieces of green or blue or whatever? And
If I was able to pick out a hair or a fiber, I would have attempted to do that from the debris collection. The debris collection was just anything that was left on the item that I was not able to pick off.
Okay. And you did not note any debris item that was plastic or plasticine anything like that, correct?
No, I did not make any kind of observations on the debris itself.
And there was no marker put on any part of the debris that was recovered, correct?
That's correct.
And there was no photograph taken of the debris,
That's correct.
and there was no videotape of the debris collected?
Correct.
Okay. When you received item 717 and item 718, that came in one evidence bag, did it not?
Yes, it did.
Your Honor, may I approach briefly? Yes. If you wouldn't mind taking a look at that. That's a photograph. I'd ask you to review and tell me if you recognize it. Not the photograph, but what's depicted in the photograph.
Yes, I do.
How do you
I'm here to pick
recognize
up the
that?
couch, so I'll be back, guys.
This is the container that contained the
Get rid of
photo
this shit.
of the brown paper bag that contained the long sleeve gray shirt as well as the orange t-shirt.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
If I could ask that be marked as next in order.
Any objections, Lally?
No, Your Honor.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. This evidence bag notes, let me start over. This evidence bag is in the condition that it was in when you received it, meaning the writing on the back was already there when you received it.
Yes, that's correct.
And it notes that it was, these items of evidence were collected by Trooper Proctor, correct?
Yes, correct.
And the date of collection was January 29, 2022, is that right?
I'd have to relook at that
Of course.
for the date.
May I approach?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't.
Display
So you got an answer.
My
Right, I think-
apologies. The date on there is January 29th, 2022.
So I don't have to walk back and forth, may I?
Yes.
Okay, does that look like what you're looking at, exhibit 261?
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you. Let's see if I can stand out of the way. You see Trooper Proctor's name on the evidence bag as the person that collected it.
Yes, that's correct.
And it also has a description of what's in the bag, and it shows both the orange t-shirt and the gray sweatshirt collected together and bagged together, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the date, again, once again, on the upper right is January 29, 2022, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay. You have no way of knowing, as you sit here, the journey that those two items of evidence took before they got to you in your lab, correct?
yes. They're tracked as soon as they're entered into our laboratory system by us.
I didn't hear any of that. I'm so
My apologies. The item would be tracked as soon as it's submitted to our lab by us, by the crime lab.
Thank you. We can take this down, Your Honor. Thank you. The debris that you ultimately got from the shirt or shirts, you don't know if that debris may have been in the bag and the shirts picked up the debris in the bag or otherwise, correct?
Correct.
Because they were housed together,
Yes,
stored together.
that's correct.
Were you aware before you began your analysis on either one of those shirts that those shirts had been found at the bottom of an ambulance, on the floor of an ambulance at one point?
I don't have any knowledge of where the clothing, what condition the clothing in was before I got it.
Okay, and that probably answers my next question, but just for the record, you don't have any knowledge personally as you sit here that either one of the shirts or both of them were floor of a hospital room as well.
I have no information about where the shirts were.
One of the things that you did indicate was, in your direct examination, was how important it is to maintain sanitary conditions with evidence to avoid contamination, correct?
That's correct.
For instance, you wouldn't want to take the swabs that you so carefully utilized to swab an item of evidence and then, oops, drop it on the floor. You would have to discard that item and then start over, correct?
If a swab is dropped on the floor, we don't discard it. We would preserve it, but that would be a note that we would have to put in our file, and that, yes, that swab would not be tested any further.
Right, because of the possibility of cross-contamination.
Correct.
And at least according to the evidence bag, those two shirts were in the custody and control of which trooper before you got them?
Trooper Proctor collected the evidence, according to the bag.
Thank you. Ultimately, Ms. Hartnett, every single piece of taillight material and clothing that you've described in your testimony today on direct and cross-examination, all of that evidence was presented to you or to the lab at one time in one bundle on March 14th, 2022, correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Which portion was in the lab before March 14th?
The tail light that I collected from the vehicle was submitted prior to that, as well as any other items that I took from the vehicle.
Okay, that was a great answer and my mistake. I knew that and I forgot it. So the taillight housing you took on the first?
Correct.
Okay. Every other item other than the taillight housing itself, which you took personal possession of, all the taillight fragments, all the clothing, orange shirt, gray shirt, jeans, shoes, everything was all submitted in one fell swoop on March 14th, 2022. Is that right?
No.
What else am I incorrect about?
So I just wanted to clear anything that was collected from the vehicle, as well as the swabs from the red Solo cups and the drinking glass that I was presented with at Canton PD was submitted by me on February 1st. The other items, the clothing items, were submitted together. And then there was another submission that had the fingernails and the known blood standards. So there were several submissions. So I'm hesitant to lump it all into one because it did happen on different dates.
Okay, fair enough. Can we agree that the earliest submission, with the exception of the stuff that you actually took with you from the sallyport, the taillight material, whatever swabs you took, I'm sorry, the taillight housing and whatever swabs you took, all of the other material that was submitted to the lab, all of the other evidence, the earliest date anything was submitted was March 14th, 2022.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to take another look at my submission forms just to clarify.
May I approach?
Yes.
I think I have it. It's a
Okay.
two-page document, if I can show Mr. Lally. Is that a copy of your submission form?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If you could familiarize yourself with that for just a quick second.
Yes. Sir.
Okay. May I approach one more time, Your Honor? Tracking along. I have one more document I'm going to ask you to take a glance at.
Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is that document, the second document that I just handed?
This is a printed chain of custody report from our laboratory information management system.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to mark the first document's name again. I want to get it right.
It's the evidence submission form for submission 7.
Evidence submission form for submission 7, two-page document, if I could have that next in order. And then the
Chain of custody. My apologies.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
Yes, to both.
So the objection sustained unless you want to convince me otherwise.
I'll have them marked for ID for the time being. That's fine. If that's okay with the court.
Yes.
You.
You've got a lot of your Post-its on the other one. Do you want to take it off?
I was going to actually ask if I think it would help with this. Go a lot faster with those Post-its
The
on.
witness, I guess. Go back to the witness with those, please.
If you could take a look at what's been marked as VV, that's the log. I just want to go through this relatively quickly. With regard to plastic pieces that were submitted, if you look on page, for instance, page 11, where a tab is,
Yep.
that shows that that piece was submitted on March 14th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there was a piece submitted on March 14th on page, notated on page 12.
What item are you referring to?
It's a plastic piece.
Yes, correct.
Page 13, another plastic piece.
Yes, submitted on March 14th.
And page 14, another plastic piece.
Yes, that's correct.
Page 15, another plastic piece.
Correct.
And page 17.
Oops. Sorry. Yes, that's correct.
And then if you turn to the next page, page 18, that's the orange T-shirt. It shows its submission date, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what's that date?
March 14th.
And then on page, the bottom, very bottom of page 20, going into page 21, there's another item, the gray T-shirt or gray sweatshirt.
Yes, that was also submitted on March 14th.
Okay, thank you. I may approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we need those. They're marked for identification.
I'm not sure if I'm going to use it one more time.
Put them up on the bench and you can grab them.
Of course, man.
Yes.
Ms. Hartnett, before you received all of the items that we've talked about and all the items that you've testified about, with the exception of the items that you physically took with you from the sallyport, everything else that you've testified to was submitted to you on March 14th or after, correct?
That's correct.
And all submitted by Trooper Proctor, correct?
I know they were all submitted by the Norfolk County Detective Unit. I don't know the specific officer that necessarily dropped them off at the lab.
Can you answer the question based on the log information that you have and the chain of custody that's in front of you? Can you answer the question whether Trooper Proctor or anybody else stored the taillight lens material and the clothing in the same place or in the same bag before you received it?
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that question one more time?
Based on the log information that you have, in other words, the chain of custody that's in front of you, that you can absolutely look at and determine where things were and who had them, can you tell us whether or not Trooper Proctor or anybody else stored any of the taillight material and the clothing in the same place or even in the same bag?
No, I don't have any information to how the evidence was treated before it was received in the lab.
In fact, that's because there is no chain of custody for that data. I'm sorry, for those items. There's no data for those items predating March 14th, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You don't personally have any chain of custody information about those items we just went over predating March 14th, do you?
I personally do not have any data that would indicate where those items of evidence were prior to them being accepted into the lab.
And one of the reasons why you have such detailed chain of custody protocols is to maintain control over where items go and how they're handled, and by whom, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, anything, Mr. Lally?
Just a couple. Now, the vehicle that you observed, the defendant's vehicle in the Sallyport of the Camp Police Station, that was in generally overall good condition, other than the areas of damage that you noted on the right rear, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you were swabbing, the swabs that you took from the taillight housing that you then later submitted to DNA, that was a taillight housing that you took from the Camden Police Station, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You logged that into the lab?
Yes, I did.
You took those swabbings and then you packaged them and you sent them to the DNA, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And all of those swabbings were taken from the exterior area of that taillight assembly, is that correct?
Objection.
The objection sustained is to the form.
With regard to those swabbings that you took from the taillight housing, where on the taillight housing did you take them?
I took them from what would have been the exposed area of the taillight, should the taillight have been intact. So I did not collect from any of the interior portions of the taillight that would have been protected by the exterior plastic piece.
Now, at the time that you were looking at the vehicle in the Sallyport of the Camden Police Station, do you recall what the temperature was inside the garage?
No, I don't have that information.
Was the temperature the same inside the garage as it was outside of the garage? If you know, was it heated at all?
I don't know if it was heated.
As far as the vehicle itself was concerned, when you saw it in the garage, did you see any sort of frozen snow or ice or anything like that on the exterior of the vehicle?
Not to my recollection, no.
I have nothing further on.
Is he trying to say the temperature?
One follow-up question. May I approach?
Yes.
If you take one more look at that, what's been marked for identification is UU. That's the evidence submission form, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Who signed that form?
Objection.
So the objection sustained unless you want to see me at sidebar.
I'll ask it a different way. Whose name is on the bottom of the form?
Objection.
It's the same question. Do you want to come up? Do you want to come up to sidebar?
Yes, Rob.
May I have that, please, Ms. Hartnett?
Someone was detected at your front door.
Up. Did they explain it with the hair? Were they trying to say the temperature in the garage is what caused the hair to shift or something? What's up with the hair? Gingerly. I gingerly walked up to the judge for the sidebar. No.
You are unmuted.
Thank you, Your Honor. With that, I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Hartnett, you are all set. Thank you. All right, your next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth call Ms. Ashley Valer to the stand.
step right up here. Just watch your step forward.
Proctor. Who we got?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case down here should be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
So, Mr. Lally, would you remove the, good afternoon, would you remove the exhibit that's on the witness stand,
Yes.
please? All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
My name is Ashley Valer, spelled Vallier.
And
Okay.
Ms. Valer, what do you do for work?
I'm a forensic scientist at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
All right, so Mix Villar, I'm going to ask you
Oh,
to keep
God.
your voice up.
Okay.
What we've been doing is we've had to turn the air conditioning off and we can't hear you.
Okay.
Are they?
All right, Mr.
And
Lally.
how long have you been employed at the State Police Crime?
Just over 5 years.
And if I could ask you just a little bit about your educational background, starting with your undergraduate work, where did you go to school for that?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Biochemistry and Cell Biology from University of California, Science degree in Biochemistry and Cell Biology from University of California, San Diego.
Oh, Cali.
And following your receipt of that degree, where did you go from there?
I have a Master of Science degree in Biomedical Forensic Sciences from Boston University.
Boston.
And once you received that master's, where did you go to work after that?
I worked at the Broad Institute for about 6 months before getting a job at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
As far as your work at the Broad Institute, that's located in Cambridge, is that correct?
Correct.
And what type of work did you do at the Broad Institute?
I worked for the Center for the Development of Therapeutics department, doing quality control checks on compounds that they think could have potential to be therapeutic drugs.
And so you went to work for the Mass State Police Crime Lab, or the MSPCL, in early 2019, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you first went to work for the MSPCL, what unit were you initially assigned to?
The Trace Arson and Explosives Unit.
Is that the unit that you still currently work in?
It is.
And so you started with the lab as a forensic scientist 1, is that correct?
Correct.
And so what sort of steps or what kind of training did you go through in order to go from being a forensic scientist 1 to being a forensic scientist 2 that you are now?
A forensic scientist 1 is the initial job that you're hired as. After you've been at the lab for a year and once you're qualified and signed off to do casework, you become a forensic scientist 2.
Now, within the trace unit, can you describe to the jury sort of what types of things you're looking at or what types of analysis that you do with regard to working in the trace unit specifically?
What I do or what the unit does?
First, as far as in general terms, what is a unit?
The unit has a lot of disciplines. So there's fire debris examination, explosives examination, serial number restoration, gunshot residue analysis, fibers, paint, glass, physical match, trace recovery.
And specific to yourself, what is it that you do within the trace?
I do gunshot residue analysis, trace recovery, and physical match analysis.
And as far as each of those respective categories, is those the things that you've done essentially your time there, especially as a forensic scientist too?
Yes.
Now, with regard to as far as the physical match component that you were talking about, can you explain to the jury, just again in general terms, sort of what goes into that, or what are you looking at, what are you doing in regard to your analysis with that?
Physical match analysis is looking at 2 or more items that have broken or irregular edges and seeing if they fit together like a jigsaw puzzle.
And when you're doing those examination of various items with respect to that, what types of instruments are you using, or what types of ways are you looking at these from an instrumental perspective?
It's mostly the stereo zoom microscope, which is a microscope that's mounted on a stand so that it can look at larger objects and not just slides like in science class.
Now, over the course of your work with the lab, you're familiar with the lab is accredited, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's accredited by an organization known as ANAB?
Correct.
And with respect to that accreditation, what if any testing or what if any examinations or continuing education do you have to undergo in order for that accreditation, either for yourself or for the lab itself?
As part of the accreditation, analysts that are signed up to do casework do proficiency tests every year.
And have you done proficiency testing over the course of your 5 years with the lab?
I have.
And specifically, what types of areas have you taken proficiency testing in?
I've taken proficiency tests in gunshot residue analysis and physical match cases.
So with respect to sort of each of the various areas of work that you do within the lab, is that correct?
Except for trace recovery, but yes.
And with respect to each of those, as far as the proficiency testing was concerned, you've successfully completed each of those?
I have.
Now, if I could turn your attention to, at some point over the course of your work within the trace unit in the lab, did you become involved with the lab case number 22-02184?
I did.
And there's a name that's associated with that lab number as well, is that correct?
A name?
A name as far as a suspect or a defendant or something like that?
Yes.
And whose name is that?
Karen Reed.
And as far as your work within the trace unit, how is it that you came to be involved, or what piece of analysis did you become initially involved in with respect to Ms. Reed's case?
I was assigned to do physical match analysis on, well, many different items.
Before we get to the physical match, was there something, what if anything were you asked to do with regard to some clothing items associated with the John O'Keefe?
I believe I later received debris that was collected from those clothing items.
And so debris specifically, do you recall which clothing items you received debris from?
I do not without looking at my notes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the witness look at her notes?
Yes, go right ahead.
I mean, it's just a different angle. The hair follicle. That's it. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe the hair is actually pointing up.
And did you remember refreshed as to which items of clothing you looked at?
Yes, so it was, well, I didn't look at clothing. I just received the debris that was already packaged. So it was labeled as coming from jeans, boxer shorts, sneakers, a gray long sleeve shirt, and an orange t-shirt.
Now, with respect to each of those items had a lab sort of label number associated with it, is that correct?
Correct.
And is it your understanding that the larger piece of clothing would have been labeled 7-something, and then the debris from that clothing would have been labeled 7- same thing, point whatever? Does that sound familiar?
It does, yes.
And so with the specific reference to item 7-18.18, that was debris from an orange t-shirt, is that correct?
Yes.
And specifically, I'm sorry, debris from an orange t-shirt and a gray long sleeve shirt, correct?
Correct.
And from your analysis of that debris, what if any examination did you do of that debris that was provided to you within the trace?
So each of these items was packaged in a fold. And so I opened up the fold and looked at the items under the stereo zoom microscope and documented it with photos.
And as far as that item, 7-18.18, what, if anything, did you observe as far as contained within the debris from that item specifically?
May I look at my notes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Forensic science. Let's see.
There was apparent dirt debris, many black, gray, blue, and orange apparent fibers, several pieces of red apparent plastic, several apparent hairs, one piece of green material, and one piece of clear apparent plastic.
And the clear apparent plastic, what, if any, measurements did you conduct with reference to that?
It measured approximately 1/8 of an inch by 1/16 an inch of an inch.
Now, from your analysis of those items, what, if anything, do you know where within the lab they went following your analysis there?
I believe another analyst in the trace unit then looked at those items.
And that would be are you familiar with another person who works in the trace unit named Christina Hanley?
I am.
And so what, if any, training does Ms. Hanley have that you do not have in order to conduct that sort of further analysis?
So Christina Hanley is the trace supervisor, and she is signed off to do casework in fibers, miscellaneous paint, glass. You see the other trace disciplines that I am not.
So essentially, those items contained within that debris were something that you examined microscopically, made observations of, took measurements, and then they went to Ms. Hanley?
Correct.
Now, with respect to, you mentioned a variety of plastic items that you examined, correct?
Of the initial items that I looked at?
Yes.
Yes.
And what were those, generally speaking, what were those initial items that you looked at?
There were many different items containing that I believe were recovered from an address, but I would have to look at my notes to.
Go ahead.
So they were all labeled as coming from, as recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
And what types of items were they specifically that you had received?
So it was many pieces of apparent plastic and apparent glass and one drinking straw.
And those items were generally labeled as items 7-5 through 7-19. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
And with reference to the process in general terms of when you receive these items, can you explain to the jury sort of your process and what you did and what you looked at as you went through each of these respective items?
Sure. So for beginning a physical match case, you always look at the questioned items first, which are the ones that you don't know where it came from. Like here, they're labeled as coming from the road, so you don't know where their actual source of origin is. And so what we'll do is we'll scan that item into my custody. And then I will document the packaging with photographs. And then I'll open that item and then document that item as it is. And if there are multiple pieces, each piece will get a designator like piece A, piece B, piece C. All this gets documented, written down in my notes and in photographs. If any of those pieces look like they could possibly fit together, then I will look under the stereo zoom and see if they do, in fact, fit together, and document it if they do. And then once I've finished documenting that, I'll repackage it in the original packaging. And then if there are multiple items, like in this case there were, then once that first item is sealed up, then I'll clean my bench and then I'll open the second item and do the same thing until all of the items have been documented.
And again, if you could describe to the jury sort of the physical process of what you did in this case with respect to these items, as far as how were you looking at them sort of physically, what did you do with those items?
So like I said, I opened up each of these items individually took photos, took notes, looked at them under the stereo zoom microscope, and then looked at my photos after I had looked at all of them. They'd all been packaged in their original packaging. And then I looked at the photographs to see if any of those pieces could possibly fit together. And then once I looked at the photos and saw that it looked like there were possible physical match fits among those questioned items, then I opened up those items and looked to see if they, like in real life versus just on photos, see if they could have a potential physical match. And then if it looked like it did, then I brought them together and looked at that in the stereo zoom to confirm if there was a physical match.
May I approach?
Yes.
This way, I'm showing you a series of 9 photographs. Just ask you to look at those and help me finish. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
Item 7-5.
And is that how it was presented to you or shown to you as far as the evidence bag that you opened and the items that were contained within?
I mean, this is just a picture of the seal, not the entire bag, but yes.
Okay. Now, Nicole will seek to introduce the minutes and next exhibits. No objection.
Exhibits 262 through 270. Thank you.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish some of these photographs to the jury, please?
Okay.
And Ms. Tillman, if I could have photograph 1905. Next, Valer, what's up on the screen is photograph 1905, which has now been marked as exhibit 262. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And is that the evidence bag that you were presented with regard to items labeled as 7-5?
That's the seal on it, yes.
Now, just in general terms, as far as this process that you're talking about, sort of fitting the puzzle pieces together, how long and how laborious a process did that entail?
In this case specifically,
Yes.
there were many items to look at, so it did take quite a bit of time.
And if I can have photograph 1908. And do you recognize what's up on the screen, which has now been marked as Exhibit 263?
I do.
Is that one of the pieces that you had from item 7-5?
Those are the 3 pieces in item 7-5.
So 3 pieces from that were all red, apparent plastic pieces from that same item. Is that correct? May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another 7 photographs. Give you those. And do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The seal and then the items from item 7-6.
And what's contained in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed when you were doing your analysis in the lab?
Yes.
Your Honor, how will seek to introduce the minutes of those exhibits? No.
Exhibits 271 through 277.
Thank you. And Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could publish some of those photographs to the jury at this time.
Okay?
Gentlemen, if I could have photograph 1921. And Ms. Gilman, if you could just rotate that. So, Mr. Leader, what's up on the screen, as that's photograph 1921, exhibit 271. That is the evidence bag or box that contains the items in reference to the lab item 7-6. Is that correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that, as far as the labeling is concerned, these are items that were submitted by the state police, correct? As far as you know.
Yes.
And from the labeling that's exhibited in labeling that's being shown in Exhibit 271, that actually has an indication of who the submitting agency is and the date that the item was collected, correct?
Presumably, I don't know because that's not our lab's labeling system.
It's fair to say, as far as your observation of these evidence bags as you were opening them, or boxes as you were opening them, they had different dates on them, some of them, is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1924. And again, what's up? Now, what's up on the screen that's now been marked as Exhibit 272. These were the items that were marked within that box or that bag of item 7-6. Is that correct?
Correct.
It appears two pieces of clear plastic, correct?
Apparent plastic, yes.
May I approach the witness room?
Yes.
Bring you another series of photographs if you could review those. Look up when you're finished. And do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs, ma'am?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The item 7-8.
And again, fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed in the lab with reference to item 7-8.
Yes.
Come up and seek to introduce them there today. Okay.
It is 278 and 292, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish some of these photos to the jury as well? Ms. Valer, with regard to the items that were contained within these variety of bags or boxes that you had received as evidentiary items, what, if any, difference was there between sort of color, the size, the shape of the different items that you received?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Were they all sort of uniform as to their color, as to their size, as to their shape, or what, if any, differences did you note between them?
Between the items that we've already published, or just all of them?
All of them in general.
So some of the pieces were clear apparent plastic, some were clear apparent glass, some of them were red apparent plastic, some of them were silver colored apparent plastic.
And as far as the size of these pieces of plastic or glass that you had received, how would you describe sort of their physical size, shape, things of that nature?
Some of them were very small, and some of them were larger. I can't tell you the dimensions without looking at my notes.
And you took measurements with respect to each of the pieces that you analyzed, each of the pieces that you examined, and each of the pieces that you ultimately tried to find a match for, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1931. And what's up on the screen is now divided as Exhibit 278. Do you recognize as the bag of bonds that contains item 7-8?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 1934. Now, what's contained in this exhibit up on the screen, number 279, do you recognize that as contents that were collectively sort of labeled as item 7-8?
I do.
And so from a variety of those different pieces that are depicted up on the screen in exhibits 279, each of them would have been respectively labeled as far as, say, 7-8.1 or 7-8 point something else. Is that fair to say?
So the laboratory numbering system where it goes 7-8.1, that's if you take like a subsample. So if I had collected like debris or something off of this, out of this item, that would then be labeled 7-8.1 because it's a new entry in our limb system.
Mike was muted.
These are just the different pieces in 7-8. In my notes, I gave them labels as such as piece A, piece B, piece C, all the way down to, well, however many there were.
You labeled them individually as sort of letters, is that correct?
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1928. And if you could zoom just a little bit in on that. The next layer, what's depicted up on the screen within this exhibit of 282, do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that one of the pieces that was submitted within this as far as 7-8 that you examined throughout the course of your analysis, right?
It was. There's actually two pieces in that. There's the large one in the middle, and there's a very small one up in the corner.
Okay.
Total Boy just posted on Twitter, said that the Commonwealth has 33 witnesses left. There's no way this trial is going to finish in July. 33 witnesses left. What the? Are they going to go through all of them? Are they going to call each one? Wow. Yeah, this trial is moving at a snail's pace. A snail's pace. What the? Oh, you can do this too. That's cool. Let's see. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. Okay. I can make my own little sound stuff. All right, Pimpin'. I see you, Pimp. Now I see you, Pimp. I don't need this other bullshit. Yeah, take a break, stand up. I mean, seriously, you're gonna have to plan out summer vacation. I mean, what was it the other week? Last week, they had like 4 days off and shit. You guys are gonna have to plan your summer around this trial. Out time with the kids. Shit, I'm gonna have to take some breaks too. I mean, I'll leave the thing running, and I gotta go out to do some shit too. I might have to leave this shit running and tap in from my phone. And go to the pool or something. This shit crazy. It's summertime. Kids getting out for summer. Hurricane season's coming. What if a hurricane comes? That dude just fingered his belly button. Oh, fingered his belly button in the background. Damn, dragging out. What did I get myself into? God. Yeah, to the nah. I need to find the hell to the nah. When I've said that before. Get him some milk. Let's see. Copy this, download this. She's good. Thank you, Mel. Melraz. The couch is out of here. The cursed couch. And a different one is coming on Wednesday. And hopefully we can finally have a living room like normal people. So y'all think Karen had nothing to do with it, right? Karen had nothing to do with this shit. The cops, the people in that house.
He needs some milk.
All right, let me make that. He need milk. Export audio only. I might as well get productive while we're stuck here. All this downtime and shit. Start making soundboards, updating the live streams, making improvement, making thumbnails and emojis. Fuck it. Let's see. There it is, okay. I don't think I can ride with everyone on this one. But I'm still holding up. I'm still trying to. I'm trying. Gotta hold up. I gotta give the experts a chance and the defense. All right, I'm gonna do a test. Hold on a second. Milk. Let's see if it works.
He
You are
needs some
unmuted.
milk.
Okay. For the future. There's a meme to that. There was this guy that was like really high on drugs, really out of it, and some lady screaming from the back, like, he need milk, somebody give him milk.
May I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
You recognize those, ma'am?
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Photos that I took of item 7-10.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to introduce you as the next. Oh, there's. And again, Your Honor, with court's permission, if I could publish that to the jury.
Okay.
Gentlemen, if I could have photo 1952. And Ms. Valer, what's depicted up on the screen is that the bag of box that contains item 7-10.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 1955. And again, what's up on the screen is that the item that was contained within that evidence.
Yes.
Can I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, there might be a smart way for me to do things. Well,
Another series of photographs. Do those until we're finished. And Ms. Valer, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
I do.
Or what do you recognize those to be?
The packaging that item 7-9 and 7-19 came in.
And what's contained within those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of those items when you received them at your station and within the trace unit?
It is.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce and admit as the next. Okay. If I could just place these before you take a look at those while the stenographer is marking.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish what's now been marked as 296 through 309 for the jury?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I can have photograph 1958. And again, Ms. Valer, what's up on the screen is that the evidence bag or box that contains those items that she is testifying about 7-9, 7-19.
Yes.
Now, with regard to Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1962. Ms. Valer, now what's been depicted up on the screen and been marked as Exhibit 297. Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in just a little bit on items of evidence, please. Now, contained within this are three clear pieces of glass or plastic, if you know.
I'd have to look at my notes to see what I wrote them as.
My other question, Your Honor, with the court's permission, may.
Yes, go ahead, look at your notes.
And after referring to your notes, what type of material is that?
3 pieces of apparent plastic.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if you could slow down this report. I'm sorry. Up. Thank you very much. The item that's contained above those 3 pieces of apparent clear plastic, what is that?
That is item 7-19. That is a black straw.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1964. And what's up on the screen next player now and has been done as exhibit 299. Is that essentially the straw next to a ruler with its measurements? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with reference to the photographs that I asked you to look at before, have you had a chance to review those?
I have.
And do you recognize what's contained within those?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The photos I took of item 7-11.
And what's contained in those photographs of item 7-11, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed in your lab when you conducted your analysis in reference to this case?
It is.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth seeks to introduce and admit as the next exhibit. Okay.
Okay.
Boom, 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 boom.
It's 3/10/24.
Thank you.
So they're going till 4:30 today, apparently, guys. I guess they're gonna try.
And Your Honor, with court's permission, if I could publish.
Yes.
That's posted twice.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have
Oh,
photograph
okay.
1979. Again, next player, what's up on the screen is that the bag, evidence bag that contains item 7-11.
Yes.
And for the record, that's been marked as exhibit 310. Ms. Gilman, if I could have 1982.
Bukkake. That's that guy's name on there.
What's depicted up on the screen on exhibit 311. Is that the items, or the pieces of plastic that were contained within the aforementioned evidence bag and abuse exhibit item 7-11?
Yes.
Now, with regard to the photographs that I just placed before you before, have you had a chance to review those as well?
I have.
And do you recognize what's contained within those photographs?
Photos of item 7-14.
And what's contained in those photographs of item 7-14, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed in your lab when you conducted your examination in this case?
It is.
Thank you. Your Honor, Commonwealth seeks to introduce in a minute the next exhibit. Okay.
It's 3/25, 3/26, 3/27.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2009. Next layer, if I could draw your attention up to the screen just for a moment. What's now been marked as Exhibit 325. Do you recognize what that is?
I do.
That's a bag that contained item 7-14, is that correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I can have photograph 2012. And again, Ms. Blair, what's up on the screen is that the item that was contained, labeled as item 7-14 within that.
I'm sorry, I need all of please.
What's depicted on the screen is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what was contained in the exhibit bag from the previous exhibits, labeled as item 7-14.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry I interrupted. Were you able to review the bulk of those photographs that I just placed before you?
Yes.
And do you recognize those?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The photos of item 7-12.
If I could have, excuse me, ask those to be marked as the next exhibits. Next exhibits.
Okay.
UNC 80 Tar Heel Richard donated $5. I was wondering what time is the bukkake?
Oh god. Oh jeez. I didn't even see that super chat, so it's funny just hearing it. Where did that even come from?
Thank you.
Oh, you donated through Streamlabs. Thank you so much. I get like 99% of that. Thank you. That was hilarious. That should call me off guard.
Blair, if I could direct your attention up to the screen, what's contained and what's been marked now is Exhibit 328. Those, the evidence pack that contained the items labeled as 7-12.
So, Bukkake.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2018. Ms. Valer, directing your attention up to the screen and what's now been marked as Exhibit 329. Those are the items that were labeled collectively as 7-12 that were contained within that evidence back from the prior exhibit.
Yes.
As far as those photographs that I presented to you a moment ago, have you had a chance to review those as well?
I have.
And do you recognize what's contained within those photographs?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The photos of item 7-13.
And what's contained within those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what was contained or labeled as item 7-13?
It is.
Your Honor, almost may I approach?
Yes.
Almost 6 minutes and next exhibit. Okay.
If it's 343 through 351 more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1997. And Ms. Valer, what's depicted on the screen in that photograph, which now been marked as 0343, is that the evidence bag that contained the items labeled as 7-13?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2000. And Ms. Valer, directing your attention to the screen, those are the items contained within that exhibit bag from prior exhibits that have been collectively labeled by the lab as 7-13.
Yes.
As far as the photographs that I had placed before you, have you had a chance to review those?
I have.
And do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Photos of item 7-15.
And what's contained in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what was contained in item 7-15?
It is.
No, no,
Okay, hold on one second, Madam Court Reporter. Yeah.
UNC 80 Tar Heel Richard donated $5. Please Mel, I need a bukkake and I need it now.
Oh my god. Yo, you guys are tripping. Who was that? Oh, that was the same person. Richard. Oh my god. Thank you for the 5. Lord Almighty.
It was 352 to 368 more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lally, those are the last exhibits we'll be doing today.
Understood.
Ain't got time. We got to cut it early to be off tomorrow. Sleep in and whatever.
Photograph 2072. Next, Blair, if I could direct your attention to the screen, you recognize this as the evidence bag that contains item 7-15 that's now been marked as exhibit 352.
I do.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2077. Again, Ms. Blair, what's up on the screen are those the items that were collectively identified by the lab as item 7-15 from that evidence bag contained in the prior exhibit.
Yes.
Mm.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Valer, as far as your analysis was concerned with regard to each of these items, and we'll get to that a little bit, I think, the next time, but with regard to the labels that you assigned to them as far as letters of the alphabet, A through whatever letter that you went, when you were conducting your sort of physical match analysis, how was that shown on a particular piece, or did you label those pieces, or how were you able to sort of quantify that?
The pieces that were large enough to, I printed out labels from a label maker with the lab number, the item number, and then the piece that the letter that I assigned it, so ABC, and my initials, and those are on the pieces.
And then as far as those pieces were concerned, if you were able to find some consistency between, say, piece A and piece B, and you were able to sort of fit them together, what, if anything, did you do to memorialize that sort of physical method?
Within the same item, if there were two pieces that fit together, I documented that with photos, wrote it down in my notes, and then if it was within the same item, I held it together with tape and then repackaged it still together as a single piece.
And as far as these consistencies or the matches that you were examining or looking for, was that solely within piece to piece, or at some point did you also look at sort of a larger piece as far as a housing unit for a taillight?
For this case?
Yes.
Yes.
And with regard to the pieces that you had sort of put together, what, if anything, were you able to do with regard to some of those pieces and the taillight housing, item 3-1?
From those items that we just saw, I was able to piece one larger piece with many of those pieces all fit together into one piece that I then called piece 1. There were some other pieces that also fit together among those question ones that I called pieces 2, piece 3, piece 4, and piece 5. Piece 1 was a physical match with item 3-1, the taillight.
Your Honor, I think that may.
Okay.
Moment.
All right, so, Mix Valer, we're going to have you back on Wednesday. Okay, but, I'm going to ask you to wait. Jurors, so we don't meet tomorrow, we'll meet Wednesday, and we'll go a full day Wednesday with an abbreviated lunch and sometime between 4 and 4:30. So please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it. I know we took a long time today with getting exhibits in before you, but it's a very important part of the case, and it does just take some time, so we appreciate your patience. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.
You are muted.
Thank you, maybe see the court still in session.
So you are all set, you can go. So I was just talking to Mix Valer about whether I needed to call Lawrence Court for her or not. So you are all set. Thank you very much. All right. You don't need me for anything until Wednesday? We'll see you Wednesday.
Court, all rise.
Hey there, Karen Reed trial watchers. This is a law and crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Yep. Well, Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is actually helping users file for compensation due to issues surrounding Google users' privacy through their incognito browser. So if you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions at incognitoclaims.com/LCLive.
So we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Guys, what happened? Are they done for the day or are they taking a break? Oh, just misses the jury. I went to grab like half a sandwich and I got an empanada heating. There's no trial tomorrow. If I'm filling up for it, I wanted to go over the prosecution's claim, like the state claim. It's not a mass conspiracy. It's about 15 to 20 people. Okay, you don't think 15 to 20 people is crazy? It's about 15 to 20 people most. Some people think 15 to 20 people are involved in this. I just tweeted something out right now. I'm sorry. I just don't believe the mass conspiracy. I just don't. I know a lot of people want to jump in on that. I almost feel like it's the bandwagon thing to do. I just don't. But like I said, I'm trying to hold out because I want to see what the Cellbrite testimony, the expert, has to say. I want to see what the defense has to say when they get their turn. Even though the burden's on the prosecution, I know that. And I said in the tweet, I don't know if they can meet the burden. I don't know. But I don't. I don't buy this mass fucking Illuminati conspiracy. That I don't know. Anyway, so if there's time tomorrow, I think we can do like 2 documents. It wouldn't take too much time, and we can see what the state is presenting. Because my thing is too. Because okay, so somebody was wondering, like, somebody was asking, like, you know, what was the thing with the belt? Like, what was that about? Did I save the tweet? Damn it. Let me see if I have it. People were going on and on about the belt and that there's a conspiracy with the belt and the belt is missing. Where is the belt? I was trying to find a tweet. I don't really save this stuff because what I realized too is when these people, when the time comes, they walk it back. And then they're like, oh, what are you talking about? And I don't take screenshots. I don't record stuff. And so here's one. With the belt. And so there was this mass, and I have no problem with Olivia or respect her, but they were going on with this belt thing, given the fact he was wearing the belt. Where's the belt? Why wasn't it recovered from the scene? All this shit about the belt. And then today the belt pops up. It pops up on the screen. It's literally there. All right. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's just me. I'm not really... And it wasn't just that. Let's see what else it was. There's something else. They were saying, where's John's sweatshirt? Where's the belt? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, let me see this other lady. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong at the end. I don't know, you know. And you never know with the jury, too, what the jury's thinking. The biggest thing for me, see, Carrie Roberts' testimony was really important to me, and I feel like they like to dismiss that. She literally said, Karen Reed called her like at 5 a.m. and said, what should say, John's dead. Unless they think she's making it up too. The thing what gets me, it's like there is shady stuff. The belt was not listed in the clothing. And okay, the belt was not listed when they took the clothing into evidence. Neither was his one sure hat that was entered days later. The thing is, I feel like people have like this, they feel like they have the right to know everything. I don't know if it was presented or recorded or not, but like people assume that they know everything and then it's presented at trial. How many trials have we covered? And you think you know everything, and then they show you all the stuff and it starts coming up. People think they have a right to know everything. And so it's presented during the trial. The thing what got me is like, okay, the butt dials, that's sus. That house died Nicole at 227. That, like I said, that's a big thing for me. So if they bring an expert and they can somehow explain it where it's logical, okay. If not, then that's a huge big factor. If they can't explain that away. But the defense to sit here and accuse every single person of being in on it, every single expert witness to have lied, everybody and their mother, there's not one single honest person. The whole, I don't know how many people was on the witness, they're all lying, they're all in on it. Like that's where I have a hard time buying it. And Karen Reed delayed handing over her phone. Right? Karen Reed delayed handing her phone over. Oh, come on. They're cross-examining? No. They've literally implied that they're involved in this shit. And that they're lying on their reports. Come on now. Well, Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, that is sus. The phone thing? Yes. I'll give you that, yes. What's my thoughts on TB? I mean, I think he has gone overboard in certain circumstances. This is his case, you know. He's been covering this from the beginning, you know. But I've seen video where he showed up at people's events. I think that's crossing the line. Now, you know, they say, "Oh, well, it's a public thing. We have tickets." I get that, but you're showing up just to, like, in my opinion, stalk these people. That's overboard. Or doxing people on your website. I think that's overboard. Next, I'm in on the conspiracy too. We're gonna see. We're gonna see at the end how this thing turns out. It's really hard to tell like what a jury's thinking. We could all think something, but the jury could be thinking something else. Too many butt dials on the phones. I mean, with shoddy police work, the defense doesn't have to go too far to get reasonable doubt. Nah, I'm not saying police wouldn't do that, but you guys are trying to say the police, the paramedics, who else? Like just friends of John, like all these people are like somehow. I'm gonna have to make a list of the amount of people that have been accused in this murder or conspiracy, because I've seen some posts before. The butt answer. Police chases? No, not really. Well, we're gonna see. So Kimberly responded to my tweet and she said, I believe that at first too, I just can't get past the solo cups. I was going to see if I had a solo cup here. The solo cup is bad. I don't know why they would collect forensic evidence in that. leaf blower, grocery bag, and Brian Albert not coming out of his house when a fellow law enforcement officer died in his lawn. The vanishing of the Jeep and Jim McCabe's testimony just doesn't ring truthful. It's not a huge place, Mel. Okay, let's see. Canton. It's in Canton, right? Canton. Demographics. 23,000 people. Where's the blood? That's one of my questions. Where's the blood? The butt dials? How long to die in the cold? What else? I feel like today was kind of like hurtful against the defense because them showing more tail fragments. Oh, it's just something else, I guess. Karen Swift? Who's that? No, Chris. Double dog dare me to do 27 miles in reverse. I'm not one of those people. I've seen people reverse like that, but I'm not gonna do no crazy shit like that. Fuck no. If you know about the corrupt some officers in Canton, Massachusetts, that is with other stuff they've done, you will understand why it's possible for them to cover up each other. So you guys, all right. So let me understand. So the ATF, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert. I might need to pull up the character list. Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Michael Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, Colin Albert, Julie Albert, Karen Reed. Well, Karen Reed's whatever. Brian Albert Jr., Chloe the dog. Oh, let's see here. The multiple paramedics that have testified, they're all lying. The hospital staff. Are they going to have, I feel like they haven't really dove in depth with the marks on John's arms. If the feds have exculpatory evidence, why haven't they brought it forward yet? If the Murdochs did it, so can any small town racket. My thing is like, I'm feeling like this might turn out to be, because I feel like the Murdochs, a lot of people were jumping on this and they want to deny it now. That's the thing. That's why like maybe I should take screenshots because now they want to deny it. When I made a post the other day and I was like, a lot of these legal experts, because I think sometimes too people just jump with what the lawyers say, which is okay, they're legal experts, but a lot of these legal experts were wrong. I remember two specifically. I remember one guy I'm thinking of now, but I don't know there's another one. And I just remember the general consensus is like, there's no way they're going to find him guilty. And even some of them like, watch, I'll bet this on that, or I'll put my, like, they're so certain. But I thought the dog, first of all, I always thought he did it. And the dog kennel video to me sealed his fate. I honestly feel like they still, I don't know. It's so hard to say because they're really different cases. Like, do they have more on Murdoch than they had on Karen? That dog kennel video was damning. But like, somebody said, "Oh no, you hacked." Because my tweet. I don't know. I don't necessarily get swayed. And then the thing is, like, when I see another group of people, whether attacked to me, and I made a post about this like a week ago. It's not everybody, but like when I see people attacking people, like harassing them and doxing them, I always think like there's something wrong there. Like something's not right there where you're trying to force people, you know, to like this is how it has to be. The only conspiracy is you actually think Reed did it. So Chloe Albert, which I respect the account. Yeah, I like them. They're funny, but we disagree. Zero chance. The only conspiracy is you actually think Reed did it. She said she did it, right? Didn't her attorneys come out initially at first and said it was an accident? Find me the clip. Let me find the clip. She said she did it by accident. Where's the clip? Let me see if I find the clip. Maybe I heard it wrong. Where's the shit? I think I retweeted it. You know what that saying is? Believe them. If they tell you, believe them or some shit. They tell you who you are, believe them. I thought, didn't her lawyers say, and I've seen the thing retweeted before, they said it was an accident, the attorneys?
And Karen Reed ran him over.
On January 29th, Karen Reed and her boyfriend John O'Keefe were bar hopping.
We had an argument on New Year's Eve.
6 vodka drinks.
So
John and Karen headed to the house on Fairview Road.
I pull at the foot of the driveway. It's snowing. And as I see him approach the door...
Neither one of them ever made it inside.
Said, Dad, I think I struck something.
I think you walked
I think I struck something.
to the house.
John O'Keefe.
What's the news article where the attorneys were saying it was an accident? And what was the excuse they gave for that after?
Never entered the home.
12 people didn't see a guy go in the house. Like, that's what you were relying on. 12 people also didn't see a body when they left them.
11 people have given statements that they did not see John O'Keefe enter the home.
I think he was confronted, was likely brought down to the basement.
0 people have said that they saw him enter the home.
Because he's dead.
He was beaten to a point of unconsciousness.
John didn't come back to our room.
Shows that his phone did not enter that home.
Somebody, Chris replied to me on Twitter. He said, just like you guys tell me, do 27 miles in reverse. Bukkake.
Oh, really? Actually, it did. It did.
Looks like he's been in a fist fight and he's been beaten. Defensive wound bruises on the backs of his hand.
We're gonna drive around in the 2 square miles that we spent the preceding night.
John O'Keefe's daughter's testimony was that she heard Karen change her story multiple times while on the phone with Jen McCabe.
Incoherently drunk.
As Carrie Robertson, she says, John's dead. What if John's dead?
We need to watch that interview that Karen Reed did back then.
How soon was it when you pulled in there that you saw John's body?
Immediately.
She tells both.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you guys will do it. I thought that Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe was in the car with Karen while they were pulling up. And Karen was sitting in the back on the passenger side. And somehow she's the only one that spots the body after Carrie Roberts claimed that she got a call at 5 a.m. saying that Karen told her that John is dead and something got hit by a snowplow. So you guys would have to think she's lying then. But anyway, they're pulling up to the house and somehow she spots John out of everybody in the car.
The women, I something happened to my taillight. I don't know what.
I said I hit him. It was preceded by a did, and
so she said I hit him, but then she corrects it. Did I hit him? What? I mean, maybe tomorrow we'll go over the documents and then we'll watch the interview without cuts.
Said I hit him. It was preceded by a did and proceeded by a question mark.
She doesn't know how.
Did I hit him? Okay.
It broke.
This was a cover-up that John was murdered inside that house. His body was placed outside.
Is it possible that you might have hit him unwittingly?
Unwittingly, somehow,
Carrie made a statement saying she thinks that Karen was still drunk from the night before.
in his drunkenness, passed out.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4.
The Commonwealth says that you had 9 drinks that night.
I don't believe they're saying I wasn't in my right mind.
Wasn't she even trying to deny that she dropped off John at 34 Fairview and then changed her story? Or am I wrong about that? Well, Well, tomorrow, maybe tomorrow we'll go over, and here's the thing, when I mentioned we're going to go over the Commonwealth's documents, and somebody did comment and be like, well, are you going to go over the defenses thing? I guess we can. We have so many days off. I mean, I want to start with the Commonwealth first. And at the end of the day, I think what's going to matter is those expert testimonies and if you believe them. You know? The how's long to die in the cold. And if they do the whole reconstruction thing. Where was that article? Let me see. Let me see if I can find that article. A snippet of the article. I do at least owe due diligence in that, at least to go read the Commonwealth and then the defense. Even though the jury doesn't have access to all that. So if you're a juror, you're supposed to just go off of like what's been presented at the trial. And I really wonder what they're thinking. It's so hard to say. And are they unbiased? Let me see if I can find. I know somebody clipped that article with they literally came out and said, "Oh, it was an accident" or some shit. Like, I don't know where the article's at. Oh, okay. I have to keep scrolling. I'm caught up in the heat. I'm caught up in the Karen Reed situation. 9 drinks, I mean. Karen did it. Investigation was sloppy. No, I agree. The investigation was sloppy. I feel like, depending on the jury, I think a lot of these people that are so adamant are going to be shocked. Possibly. They're going to be shocked because they can't see any other way. And I'm surprised to see some other people that are entrenched in this shit. But I also know, like, hit and runs, I mean, they notoriously go unsolved. Like, so that's what I'm like, is the jury actually going to, like, find her? I don't know. But I guess that's the whole controversy about it, right? I can't find it. I know this person posted it on Twitter, the article where they were like referencing in the beginning where they were like, it was an accident or something. I guess I'll have to find it some other time. Video. They had her on video running him over. That they don't have. I'm sure that would have been like open and shut. Too many coincidences. Let me ask you guys this. I agree. Too many coincidences is sus. But is there such thing as a coincidence? You guys believe that? Just one. Do you believe there's such thing as a coincidence? Chloe? Not Chloe. Come on, y'all. Leave Chloe alone. Yeah, they were all drunk, for sure. So, oh, we got a 50-50 poll already? Oh, Lord. Cops were drunk, too. They were all drinking, yeah. The kids were drinking. The goddamn kids were drinking. Somebody said brave take. No, I agree. Listen, with the Karen Reed thing, I totally believe there's people that really feel how they feel. I really do believe there's people that feel how they feel, but I also feel that there's people that just jumping on the bandwagon just to jump on it. Whatever, you know. 50-50. Amazing. Perfect. I believe that sometimes there is coincidences. Sometimes there is. I think there is. But once you start seeing more than one and a couple of them in a certain situation, then it is sus. But like the whole thing of like with Karen Reed, like these cops and these people, they all know each other. That doesn't surprise me. Cops know cops. They're like, you know, like in the field that I worked in as a pharmacy tech, yeah, I knew pharmacists, I knew pharmacy techs, I knew nurses, like I knew a bunch of people in the medical field. And when we hung out, sometimes we all would go out to a club or a party or an outing. Like that's, to me, that's not mystical and surprising. Like, oh my God, that's typical, I think, you know? Sometimes I even used to hang out with my supervisor. Sometimes, like as a group, we'd go out sometimes to like go out to eat after the end of the shift or whatever. Like to me, it's not that crazy, you know, like, oh my, convoluted, that particularly. That's true. White poll, right? 53% say yes, and 48% say no. The numbers are changing, but too many butt dials. This lady just left the waterfall? Who is this?
For the presence of latent prints. If we find any latent prints, then we will compare them to individuals in the case.
She does look kind of lit, right? Like her hair and shit. It's like she came out of the waterfall. Ooh, new footage from Adam Soto. I mean, she looked nice, but her hair is kind of like...
Compares them to other jurisdictions in the federal system.
APHIS is the automated fingerprint identification system, and it's a database of all the fingerprint records in the state of Tennessee. NGI is the federal database which houses all of the fingerprint records in the nation. And a latent print would be digitally entered into each of these systems and search against all of the fingerprint cards and palm print cards in those databases.
Imagine if she testified during Karen Reed. By the way, I love you guys, and that's fine. We can disagree. And I will give you, there's a lot of questionable shit. I'll give you that for sure. I feel like if the Commonwealth didn't have, they do have like questionable shit with these witnesses that's happened, and I wish it wasn't that. But there is a lot of... Okay, so Phoenix told me, I applied Occam's razor here too. It all comes back to one dirty cop, Proctor covering for a family. That's it. Kerry Roberts' testimony was inconsequential. I don't agree with that, though. I think her testimony was good. I don't think she has any reason to lie. East Coaster. Harry Potter. Closer to Jesus. All right, I'm gonna head out for now. We'll figure out what we do tomorrow. I'll definitely schedule something in advance. And tonight, if there's like a chase or something, I think I'm gonna jump on the second channel so we can keep the notifications here. So jump on the second channel. All right, love you guys. Take care. I'm out of here. Peace. Bye. Bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop.